welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Teagan, and I'm joined with my co-host, Sadie. And
Hello.
We are back again. This week, we wanted to do like a little chatty life catch-up because there's just been like all kinds of crazy shit going down for us. Positive, but crazy. So we felt like it was long overdue. I feel like we haven't had an actual catch-up episode since like February, maybe. Like it's been a really long time, so it'll be good, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I feel like we always ask you guys what you want to hear, and people often vote for the life catch-ups and like chatty episodes, and then we're like, okay, yeah, we'll do more of that. And then we get just so caught up in the ideas that we get talking about life in your 20s where we're like, oh right, we forget you guys want to hear about our lives too. So today's episode is for you. If you consistently tell us you want to hear this type of episode, this one is for you.
Yep, 100%. I think before we dive in, we are going to do a connection card because we haven't done one of those in a while because we've been apart. And so if you're a new listener, the idea of the connection card is just like a conversation starter. We have a pack that's 4 different colors, each one being like a different level of deepness. We're only on the second category, which is green, but I feel like we've already had some pretty deep questions. So we're going to be in green until the end of July, I think. Then we'll just get even deeper throughout the year. But let's see what we get today. Ooh. Are you closer to your mom or dad? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, for only category 2. I feel like I'm closer to my mom, but she was a stay-at-home mom. So I spent significantly more time with her. And my dad pretty much consistently worked overtime. So pretty much constantly 6 days a week and shift work. So it would be like there were weeks where we did not see him. So I feel like that combo makes it so that I'm closer with my mom. I'm also like a girl and she's a girl, which I think also helps.
Yeah. Funnily enough, my answer is the exact same, where I'm closer to my mom. And again, she was a stay-at-home mom, so it just naturally happened that way, I guess. And my dad was like always made a point to try to make the big moments, you know, if it was like a concert at school, part of like the band or something, or if it was like a basketball game or whatever, like my dad still tried to be there, obviously, but it was just like mom was the one running the household and like that stay-at-home mom energy. So she was just around a lot more, I guess, growing up, and that resulted in a closer relationship. But that being said, I'm very fortunate where I feel very close to both my parents, so definitely feel lucky that way. But it's also interesting to think how much things have changed, because to be a stay-at-home mom now for a family of 5, like we're both from Teg, that feels impossible.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. This is the thing. I find it difficult sometimes talking to like older people about like financial situations of being a millennial. And it's like we have people in our lives who think that we can't afford, you know, a big house and 2 cars, and for me to be a stay-at-home mom because we spend too frivolously or we're lazy. And it's like, no, it's just like times have changed. Like I do not know very many people where they can afford to have one person be an unpaid labor at home. That would be so sick. Like my house would be in such great shape if either myself or Tyrell was able to stay home. Oh, I can't even think about it because I'm like, that would be so electric, but not the reality.
Yeah, 100%. It's just crazy to think how fast things change too, because it was like just our parents. Like, I don't know. So crazy, but all this to say, go stay-at-home moms.
Yeah, you guys rock. There are still some. And probably like if you don't live in Toronto where it's significantly
that's
cheaper
true.
to live.
We did also grow up in a very small town, so that would help. But
exactly. Great. Well, I am scared for when these questions get deeper because I feel like we're already getting deep, but we will see. Okay, let's dive into the little life catch up. I did write down a quote that I wanted to say to sort of kick things off. I saw this quote on TikTok, And it was, of course, everything is falling apart. Your new life will cost you your old one. And I feel like this is a good reminder. If you are also like in a place like Sadie and I where things are changing, it can be like very stressful, or not even stressful, but sometimes it just like feels bad. Like I'm like, why do I feel like I have like a knot in my stomach right now? And I'm like, oh yeah, because change is scary, but it's good because your new life will cost you your old one. So I wanted to kick off by saying that in case anyone else was listening and was like, I know that these changes are good, but it feels weird. So we're all in this together. And I feel like your 20s are just the time of big changes over and over and over.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like even if it's not your life falling apart in a good way where it's like uncomfortable, positive change, maybe you're at an all-time low right now and you're like, oh my God, things are never going to get better. Like you're just down in the dumps. I feel like one of my mottos when I'm in that headspace, and me even just a few weeks or a few months ago, is that everything needs to fall apart to fall into place. And it's one of those when you release control, you surrender, you let things just be shitty and you just accept them for what they are. It's like you give yourself permission to move on and then a new opportunity arises. And I think that kind of goes into my first life update is that I got a new job. And I feel like that was what I was desperately wanting and desperately needing to just shake things up. And I was definitely in that headspace of feeling, actually, I remember one of our connection cards a few weeks ago was, do you feel like you're living your best life? Or it was something along those lines. Yeah. And I remember answering yes, but not right now. Like I'm doing the things, but I'm just not feeling fulfilled. I'm not feeling happy. And it was because I was in a job that was sucking my soul. And I think this is very relatable, especially right now where, you know, all businesses are suffering. So everybody's working around the clock and working with smaller teams than normal. Like maybe your company's going through layoffs or they're in hiring or promotion freezes, which my company was before I changed jobs. Like it's a lot to navigate and it's exhausting emotionally, like mentally, you're just wiped. So that's the space I was in. And it was like everything was falling apart, but I was trying very hard to work up the energy to apply to new jobs. I actually applied to the job that I currently have in January 2023, and it didn't work out. I was like the second in line person, but I didn't actually land the job offer. So it just goes to show sometimes they don't work out. Things don't work out the first time, but doesn't mean that you give up. So when I saw the same job posting, I think back in maybe end of April, I reached out to the HR girl I was talking to the year before. I was like, hey, I'm still very interested in this job. I would love to reconnect, you know, see if it's maybe a better fit now. And here we are. I've now been at this job 2-3 full weeks, I guess, by the time this episode drops. And it is definitely that welcome change of pace that I needed. I'm in that like new job motivation phase where I like can get up in the mornings and I'm like excited to start my work day, and you know everything feels new and fresh, so I'm just really soaking that up. But I'll get into this more in a minute. But I'm also back to the office twice a week, which was extremely important for me. I think that was what another part of why I was so down in the dumps was I was just so isolated, to be honest, and I was just living primarily in a digital world, not in the physical world, because I just worked from home 24/7. I live alone. It was just very isolating. And after work, we would record the podcast, or I don't know. It was just like I wasn't actually out living my real life. So going back to that connection card being like, are you living your best life? It's like, yeah, I'm doing things that are exciting. Like I have a podcast, I have a full-time job, I see my friends, but it didn't feel the same, you know? So now I'm like, getting out of the house more, making connections with people in real life. And it just feels like that change that I needed. So that's my big life update.
Yeah, that is so exciting. I'm so excited for you. I feel like, that is a big, big change. Your work just affects so much of your life. So if your work is making you feel shitty, like it's like it doesn't matter, at least in my experience, it doesn't matter like how much like yoga you're doing or how much healthy eating you're doing. Like it still seeps in. So
yeah.
Yay, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And I will say though, Tag, going to your point about change being scary and uncomfortable, this role, like I said, I applied for it in January 2023. I was like very confident this is exactly what I want out of the next step in my career because it is more responsibility. It is like a step up in terms of like what I'm actually doing on the day to day. And I thought I was so ready for that. But actually starting this job has been so intimidating. My imposter syndrome is so bad. I'm managing a team of 5 people right now, where previously I was managing a team of 2 people. So that's quite a big jump. And I'm recruiting for 3 more people. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be managing a team of 8 people. And I'm like, wait, am I qualified to do this? Wait, are you guys sure that you chose me? Like, I just have such bad imposter syndrome and I'm like doubting myself. And it's that knot in my stomach being like, this is scary. Yeah. This is, you know, unfamiliar. This is a lot, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, you know? And I'm constantly reminding myself like growth is uncomfortable. Change is hard. And right now I'm in that growth mode. So yeah, it's uncomfortable. But to think of, you know, when I was so down in the dumps, it was because I was staying within my comfort zone. I wasn't feeling challenged and therefore I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So to flip things on its head is uncomfortable, but it's definitely worthwhile. So definitely also ties back to your quote that you kicked us off with.
Yeah, definitely. I think my big sort of like life update, which is currently giving me so much of the like knot in the stomach vibe, is that I bought a house, which is very exciting. We've been trying to buy a house since, I don't even know, we had like a big discussion about it in, I think, February of 2023. And we've always been saving probably for the past like 4 or 5 years, kind of saving with the general goal. But then it's been, you know, the last year and a half that we got really serious with it. Started working with a realtor in, I don't know when, March, maybe February. And it's taken to the week of June 3rd is when we got the house. So it's crazy. It's very, very strange to think of. It doesn't really feel real. I'm not sure if it will, like when it will, if it's like when we get the keys or when we have the first mortgage payment or when we're like fully moved in, when it'll like click in. So yeah, that's the big news over on my end.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be when you're moved in, all your stuff is there, you're unpacking and you're seeing your life literally take shape in that house. You're going to be like, oh, okay, I guess we live here now. But closing a house is just such a long process that it wouldn't feel real, you know, and it's not like you're, I don't know. It's also, it's one of those like digital world things again. You know what I mean? Where it's just like all happening via email, via your realtor, via your bank. Like, I don't know. It's just like hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. It was also like the saving the money was obviously quite difficult because, as we said, Toronto's very expensive. So that was a big part of it. But the actual buying of the house was so easy. Like, too easy, where it's just like you put in the offer where it was just like we told our realtor tell them this and then like they accepted it, so they're like, okay, the house is yours. And I don't know, I was like, shouldn't there be more steps? Like we did do like digital docu-signing for the paperwork, so that made it feel even more fake, where I'm like, I didn't even sign anything. But like for us to get married, I feel like I had to jump through way more hoops than I am for buying a house. So it feels very weird. But yeah, we are very excited. There's like, I flip-flop through the day of every time something is like not working in my current house, I have like that little spark of like, ooh, maybe when I move into my new house, this won't be a problem. But then it's like still the fear of all of my money is gone And it's just like, did we make a mistake? Is this the right way that we should be spending our money? And everyone says that this is the best way to be spending your money, but it's still crazy to be like 5 years of savings is gone. Like when we had to put in the deposit for the house, I had $250 in my bank account because literally all of it was gone. Luckily, my husband has money, so it's like, it's fine. If something happened, he could have e-transferred me money, but it was still what the hell? Like my bank account, can't even think of a time when my bank account's been that low because we've been saving so much. So yeah. And that's 250 Canadian. So if you're a US listener, it's even worse. So it's so very scary, but it'll be good because I know that it'll be good logically. It's just like the emotional side of me that's like, ooh, this is so scary. And so, yeah, it is crazy, but very exciting.
Yeah, it's funny because this is so silly, but I remember my first big purchase, like spending, I think it was like $600 in the swipe of a card, was I was in high school, just started my part-time job, and I bought a digital, like DSLR camera. And is that what it's called? Digital SLR? Yeah, camera. And it was like $600. And I think my parents chipped in like a couple $100 for it. And I remember I was so excited about it and I wanted it so bad. So I bought it. I had saved up for it. Again, my parents chipped in for it. And then I just sobbed because I was like, now all my money is gone.
Yeah.
And that was $600. Since then, obviously, that is not my reality anymore, where I now spend money so willy-nilly just because I have a full-time job. I'm like, I have a shopping problem. Like, I'm a different person than I was then. But to think, I would cry about that. And then here you are buying a house. Like, it's that times a million, that feeling of just being like, wait, what did I just do? And I also really resonate with the fear of making the wrong move. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast or not, but when I started my last job, I started therapy at that time because I was beating myself up about leaving my job prior to that. So like 2 jobs ago. And I was like, I have made the biggest mistake of my career by leaving my old job, starting that job. Again, not my current job, but the last job I had. So that's when I started talking to a therapist. And that was the first thing we worked through was there is no right or wrong path in life. You know what I mean? Like it's very much you make the decision that feels right in the moment. You learn from that experience and then you pivot or you build off of it if it goes well, and obviously buying a home, like you said, it's been years of saving and it's been a process and it's a very, very big decision, but it's like, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Say you start living there. It doesn't work out. Then you sell the house, you start renting again, it's like, it is a big deal, but it's not, doesn't have to be permanent if it was per se the wrong decision. You know what I mean? Like you guys will figure it out and pivot as needed. And I think that's applicable to any big decision that we make in our 20s.
Yeah, exactly. No, I feel like a lot of my stress comes from my like people pleasing side where I'm like, if something's not wrong or if something's gone wrong with this, then I will feel personally responsible and guilty about it. When I'm like, if everyone's on board, everyone's good, like the bank says it's good, the realtor says it's good, we made the decision together, but it's like, that's just how my brain's wired. So I'm trying to fight through. But I do feel like, especially by the time it happens, because it's so far away, I'm hoping those feelings will be gone and I'll just be excited because it'll be like so long coming. It's just so new. It's also like almost rewiring your brain from I've been in like the save money to buy a house. And it's like, I know, like I said, logically, I don't have to do that because I bought the house. So like the savings went to that. Life's good. But now my brain's still like, why are you spending money? We're supposed to be saving. And I'm like, but that's, so it's very strange. It's just like, I don't know, one of those big changes, I guess. But overall,
the other
very
thing too,
exciting.
the other thing too that I've been trying to tell Teagan guys is the process was easy for her because she did everything correctly. Because I feel like you listening and then you being like, buying a house is so simple. There's like, you just sign and the DocuSign done. Like, but you were pre-approved. You know, like there was a lot of steps that went into it. So I just don't want that to be misleading to anybody listening. And also to validate Teagan to be like, yeah, it's simple, but that's because you played by the rules. Like you did everything according to the plan or according to how it's supposed to be done. That's why it was simple. I don't think just anybody could buy a house and have that smooth of a process. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it was chaotic. Everyone who I tell like the house buying story to is like, geez, Louise, and it's like half an hour long. So there were parts that were chaotic. It's just like the actual once the offer is accepted part that I was like, oh,
that's it.
Okay. There's also the part, it's like imposter syndrome too, where I'm like, but I'm just little. I should be able to buy a house. Meanwhile, 29 years old, like, girl, relax. But I'm like, it doesn't feel like, how can I buy a house? That's not right. But yeah.
So funny. Okay, cool. Well, second life update for me is just tying into the whole new job piece, but establishing a new routine. So like I said, back to the office twice a week, which is definitely a big adjustment from working from home 24/7. So just, you know, setting my alarm earlier so that I can leave the house and give myself time to commute because I'm such a bad snoozer in the mornings where like I had to really push myself to get up at like 8:30 to start work at 9. Then I pushed it back to 8. I think before I started my new job, my alarm was going at 7:30, but I still had the hardest time getting out of bed before or even at 8. And now I'm like, hey, I have to leave the house twice a week by 8:30. You know, I'm very lucky where I only have a half-hour commute on public transit, so it's great. But, you know, and it's like, oh, I also need to eat breakfast before I go. I need to do my hair, my makeup. Like, I need to be ready, pull it together. So that has been exciting and good and what I need, because if it's just up to me to pull it together when I'm at home by myself, I cannot do that. So it's nice to be back at the office. And then even just like after work, you know, reestablishing my after work routine, especially on office days. But to be honest, the past 2 weeks have been so exhausting because I'm just absorbing so much information and it's still so new that I'm like just kind of thinking what I want my routine to look like, but I'm just too brain dead to even like show up in the evenings and do anything. But I'm like, you know, once I'm adjusted and settled, then I can start going back to my yoga studio and like doing all the things that I was doing as part of my work from home routine. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, and really whoa, here I am, brain dead, can't speak. Really what I'm focused on kind of as a next step to my new job.
Yeah. I feel like now would be the perfect time of year to be like getting back into commuting, because it's like it's sunny out in the morning, it's warm, like you get used to the waking up before the winter. So that's so good. That is, I think, the biggest thing that I miss about working from an office is being able to like come home and be like, okay, done work, I'm home. Like pants are off, I'm in sweatpants, makeup's off, where I don't have that. And obviously, like, there are pros and cons to working from home. I don't have that, but it's like when you're working from home, you could throw in a load of laundry or whatever. Like, there are good things, but that's the biggest thing I miss.
That's what I said to my mom. I was just talking to her on the phone maybe last weekend, and when I was down in the dumps at my old job, craving a change, I was really wanting to move. But it wasn't logical to move because I've been in this apartment for 8 years. I'm under rent control. I have a lot of space. Like, it doesn't make sense to move with Toronto prices being the way they are. And to be honest, I don't even think I could afford to move, especially at my last job, off that salary. So I was itching to move though. But again, it was just because I was home all the time. So I said to my mom when I was talking to her on the phone, I have this whole new appreciation for my apartment because I have that feeling when I come home. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to be home. Where literally 2 weeks ago, I was dying to get out of my apartment because I was just here all day, every day by myself. Yeah. And it was driving me nuts. So that is definitely making me like appreciate my home more. Now I don't quite have that itching to move anymore, which is good. So yeah. And the other big thing too that I'm getting back into the swing of is meal prepping and like planning my lunches, taking my lunch to work and stuff like that, that is something I'd kind of fallen off of, which I really enjoy working from home because I can just make like a fresh lunch every day, which I always loved. But it's now, you know, just like those little office girly things. I'm like, oh, right. I haven't done this since 2020. And even before the pandemic, like, I don't know. It was just, it feels like it's been so long and I've forgotten how to do all these things. So just reestablishing them is taken a while, but again, it's exciting.
I love that. Have you been buying new like office outfits?
Sort of, but no. I've been rediscovering my closet, which has been nice. And then I've bought a few new pieces. Like I bought a nice new black blazer. I have like little more office-y things to throw on top of like my more casual everyday clothes that I would just wear working from home. But that's the other thing. I love building an outfit. Like as soon as somebody invites me out, like for dinner, whatever it is, the first thing I think about is what am I going to wear? So now I have, you know, 2 days a week that I'm for sure getting out of the office or getting out of the house, going to the office. So I live for what am I going to wear tomorrow? What am I going to wear like on Tuesday? And yeah, it's so much fun. And I'm hoping like I can start, I was thinking like in the fall, I'll do a big like back to school shop, but for the adult corporate girl version. And like build up my work wardrobe then.
Yeah, I love that. That's the thing too. Like it took me probably like 2 years of working from home to get rid of some of my office clothes to donate them because I was like, I'm just work from home. Like there's no point. But then I'm like, if I got a job where I had to work from an office, I probably have to like do a little shop. But
yeah. And even just having my hair and makeup done every day, like I would pretty much always do my hair, but I wouldn't always do my makeup, especially near the end of my last job where I was just like, screw everybody. I don't care if I look miserable and ugly. Like, you know, like it is what it is. They deserve. Sorry. Yeah. Exactly. Where now I'm like, I truly do feel better when I have a good outfit and my hair and makeup done. Like, I feel like I'm on top of the world. So it's a good ego and confidence boost. So it's definitely good.
Oh, that's so good. I think the next life catch-up thing I wanted to talk about in my life is I got super into sauna and cold plunging, which is like having its own little moment in Toronto. Cold plunging has been, I feel like, hip for maybe like 2 to 3 years. Like my boss, she cold plunges every single morning and has for years. And I always thought that that sounded like an actual nightmare. But then I went to like a networking event at a famous like sauna cold plunge place in Toronto and was instantly addicted. So now I love it. I only have a membership that allows me to go once a month. So I usually don't go any more than that. Or if I do, I'll use my membership for once and then just pay out of pocket to go a second time. But I have been really, really loving it. Like it brings me as much sort of joy as workout classes. And I just feel great afterwards. So I'm very into it. My husband bought me a sauna hat for my birthday, so now I am set. I can show up with my little sauna hat and be ready to go.
Yeah, I feel like after our New York trip, we had a Patreon bonus episode, I think, where you're explaining Othership to me, which is the sauna and cold plunge place. And just the conversation around it was so unhinged because it was my first time hearing about it on our New York trip. But I feel like if you want to hear more about this or just like want to hear more chatty life episodes, subscribe to our Patreon because I vividly remember that episode talking about this and me being like, is this a cult tag? And you being like maybe, but it's great. And me being like, I'm so skeptical. And then literally the next week, I'm like, okay, I went, guys, and I loved it. Like
I joined the cult.
Yeah, I joined the cult, but it is good. And it's big in the, like you said, it's just a big like health and wellness thing. But I feel like it's really big in like athletic, I don't know, performance, you know, like I feel like it's making its way from that industry into kind of just like the mainstream everyday girlies are getting into it. But if you are somebody who like goes to the gym a lot or is just like invested or looking to level up your fitness routine, I feel like cold plunging is gonna be the cherry on top.
Yeah, Definitely.
After our last cold plunge, Tegan and I were I swear to God, I think I was like giddy and giggly for like 24 hours after that cold plunge. Like we were riled up. It was just so good. So all this to say, I support this and I'm right there with you, Tag.
I have heard that it's the cold plunge specifically is a bigger like dopamine bump than cocaine, which is why you feel like so pumped up afterwards. Yeah, and why it's so addictive. It is like good for you, obviously. But I'm like, especially the last time we went, when we did like 3 rounds of 30 cold plunges, I was like, I am so pumped up right now. I could run a marathon. I could party all night long. Like, let's get it going. So I was like, maybe that stat's true because I am pumped.
Yeah. 3 rounds of 30-second cold plunges, just so that's clear what we were doing. So funny. Yeah, I love that. Okay, cool. Speaking of fitness and working out and stuff, my next big life update is that I registered for a 5K race. And I think I've talked a bit about my running journey on the podcast, but essentially back in January, my best friend was like, hey, want to run? Well, no, she was like, I want to run a 5 or a 10K this year. And I was like, hey, can I do that with you? And she was like, I would love that. So we decided to sign up for a 5K race together. And we've been working on it ever since. So we've been running twice a week. We were running twice a week together up until May. And then I went away for a few weeks, stayed with my parents, and we haven't ran together since. But we are trying to pull it together to run this 5K. It's not until the fall. But I keep seeing this like meme on all social media channels. There's TikTok sounds, there's like the memes on Instagram being like, you're either having a baby, buying a house, or getting married, having a baby, or running a marathon. I'm not quite to the marathon level yet, but I will run a 5K and I'm pumped about it. So yeah.
I love that. Is the race in Toronto?
It is. So it's the waterfront race, which is, I think, pretty well known in the marathon community. They only do a 5K, half marathon, or full marathon. I'm like, probably by the fall I could run a 10K, but we're going to stick to the 5K and not, I have this problem of setting a goal and before I even achieve the goal, stretching the goal. And I'm like, no, let's not do that. We committed to a 5K. Let's just do the 5K. And if I can run 10K, great. But for that race, I'll be running 5K. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You can run a very fast 5K.
That's what I was thinking, actually. I was like, hey, if I want to get competitive with myself or push myself, I can work on my time for the 5K instead.
Exactly. Well, Tyrell and I will have to go make signs. Do people make signs for 5Ks? Or just marathons?
I hope so.
I don't know. We will.
You guys can make a sign.
Yeah. We'll be there. I feel like my friend Jess and her fiance Warren also run that race, but I think they do the half marathon.
Yeah, probably. I think it's like a weekend event. One day they have the half and full marathon. The other day they have the 5K, and it's around my birthday too. So I'm like, I'll be starting 29 running the race.
Healthy.
My first ever
That's
race.
Fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Oh, awesome. Yeah. I think the last update I have, which isn't really about me, but it's kind of like seeping into my life, so I figured I'd mention it, is that I've found that all of a sudden lots of people in my life are like prioritizing healthy long-term thinking. So it's like all of a sudden lots of friends are getting married. Lots of people are like moving, trying to buy houses, getting sober, seeing therapists. And I'm just very excited about it because I feel like, I don't know if you've felt this, Sadie, because I think we're kind of similar with this, but there were a couple years there where I felt like I was sort of surrounded by people who felt younger than me. And then I was like, I don't know. I felt weird about trying to prioritize my like healthy lifestyle or like trying to pretend to be more grown up. And so now it's like all of a sudden everyone else is finally sort of acting grown up too, and it's just like so much nicer. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the hardest part about your 20s is that everybody's going through their 20s in a different way. So you might have your friends who are clubbing until they're like even into their 30s, you know what I mean? And then you're going to have your friends that are like homebodies. They're saving all their money and buying a house at like 24. You know, like,
yeah,
it's just, there's so many life paths. And again, there's no right or wrong decision, but it does make it hard, especially like after school when you graduate and your life can be whatever you want it to be. You don't have like school and you don't have classes that are keeping you in close proximity to your friends and stuff like that. Like, it's just hard to grow with people, and you sometimes do feel like you either grow apart just because you have different priorities. But that is exciting that you feel like, I feel like too, it's just important to be surrounded by like-minded people and like
definitely
people who are on your wavelength, and you can celebrate their success, they're there to celebrate your success, and you like all lift each other up to become the best version of yourselves. Like, I feel like that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember what episode we talked about this in, but I find sometimes too, if you have people around you who are like especially like self-destructive, and then if you are trying to better yourself, it's like sometimes they can like lash out or try to make it not work out for you. And obviously that's like coming from a place of insecurity and where they are or something, but it's like, I don't want to be cutting out those people because like I'm friends with them for a reason, but it can just be hard. So I am just excited. I feel like I don't know, a like switch flipped in the spring, and lots of people were just like, oh, maybe we should get our shit together. And I'm loving it. I'm just loving seeing like all my friends, like, I don't know, like getting the things that they've been working hard for, and like the people that I've known as a couple for a really long time, like getting married after years. And it's just like, I don't know, feeling very grown up and excited about it.
Yeah. Also just feel like we're back after the pandemic, finally.
Yeah.
Like, it took us a lot longer in Canada, guys. I'm not kidding. Where even with my new job, like you buying your house, it's like, these are things that are happening because we're back. Like, we are so back. The world is happening again. And now people are just able to live their lives, and it is good. I will say, and I don't want to be a downer, so I'm just going to talk about this for a second. I feel like I've been on a similar wavelength as you, where it's just like, wow, life is happening for everyone around me. And for me, it's been in some positive ways where it's, again, it's like people are getting married, people are trying to get pregnant, people are buying houses. Like, hello, Teagan's my best friend and just bought a house. Like, I'm so excited and like I'm so pumped for you. But I'm also experiencing, oh my God, I'm growing up and facing things that I am like you were saying, am I old enough to deal with this? Am I, you know, where it's like my grandparents are getting older and having health problems. My mom just had a hip replacement. Not saying that that's a sign of age or anything, but because my mom is very young for having a hip replacement, but it's just like, these are things where you have to kind of drop your life and be like, okay, I have to be there for all these other like family and other things going on in other people's lives. And it's just a lot. So also wanted to validate that, where I'm so glad, Tag, that everyone's like doing positive, healthy things in your life. But I feel like there is also the flip side of it, where it's like, okay, but we are growing up and so much is changing and so much is changing fast. And that can be really hard to navigate. So I feel like I'm dealing with a little bit of that, but again, not going to kill the vibe too much over here.
No, in fact, I get that.
Yeah, I'm going to raise the vibe and talk about two things that I think Teagan is going to be so pumped to talk about. So hopefully this doesn't go on for another hour. But you guys, before May, I was the biggest ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Bridgerton hater. Okay, I read the first ACOTAR book. I think we read it. Was that our April book club book?
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, we had our meeting at the beginning of May. Teagan hosted it. It was a lovely night, but I just shit on the book. I was like, I hate this book. Teagan really loved it. So I was like expecting it to be like a 5-star read right off the gate. And when it wasn't, it made me like hate it more. And I was just so bitter about it. And literally Teagan, my sisters, everyone in my life loves this book, loves the series, 5 stars all around. And I was like, what am I missing? And everyone's like, okay, you just have to get through the first book. The rest of the series gets better. And I was like, I am not going to even continue reading this series. Like, I did not like the first book enough to keep reading. But our book club was like, no, we're going to read the second book for May. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read it. But I'm telling everyone now, if I'm like 50 pages in and it's awful, I'm putting it down and you guys just need to tell me what happens. And I said to Teagan, I'm going to come to you for spoilers. I want you to tell me what happens, and then I'll decide based off that if I want to find out how it comes to be or if it's not worth reading for. However, I did not have to go to those measures. I started reading the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, and I actually did like it a lot more. I just finished it. It was a 4 stars for me. I still dislike the main character, Feyre. I dislike her a lot. That's why it is not a 5-star read for me. However, I get it now, and I really liked the second book.
Yeah, I thought that you would. I remember at the end of like the book club meeting, it was just like myself and our friend Kate who was there. She was waiting for her Uber, and she was like, I just know that if Sadie reads the second book, she will like it. And I was like, girl, I know. That's what I've been saying. I was like, she'll read it with this one. And then we could all reconvene and be like, see? It was good.
100%. I will say that I'm going to still take a break before I keep reading the series. Like, I'm not. Yeah. I have to read the next one. I'm like, no, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to read my light, fluffy, fun summer romance books, and then I'll pick this up again in the fall. Unless I guess our book club continues reading the series, then I'll continue on it. But I'm like, I liked it. It's not, again, a 5-star read for me right now, but I will continue reading. I do still have the caveat, if something stupid happens, there's a chance I give up. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic. But it was good. And the other thing I was going to say was this helped me make a friend at work. I told Teagan, and I was so excited about it because somehow we were talking about books. But somebody who hadn't read the series was in on our conversation. And I was saying how everyone was like, you just need to make it through the first book. However, the first book is like 400 to 500 pages long. And the person who hadn't read the books in our conversation was like, that's like telling somebody you need to watch, like the first season of a show before it gets good. And I was like, exactly. And when people do that to me, I never watch the show. Like, I give up. I never have, I guess, the dedication to get through the shitty part for it to get good. But in this case, I'm glad I did give the second book a try.
Yeah. I do find with the first one, I reread it, and then I was like, this is so much better knowing like all the stuff that you know from reading the second book, because it's all like every line has a second meaning.
Right.
But it was kind of like with Schitt's Creek, where when I watched Schitt's Creek, I was like, I don't get it. And everyone's like, the first season sucks. Like, you just have to get through it and then it gets good. And then once I got past the first season, I was like, this show's hilarious. I love it. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, no, the first season's not bad. Like, I just didn't get the characters. I didn't get the comedy.
Right.
So then I was like, oh my God, it's just like ACOTAR, where I was like, I just didn't get it. But yeah. I understand how people don't like it. It is a very divisive book, where if you look at the reviews on Goodreads, and it's like half of them are like, this is the best book I've ever read. My life has changed forever. And the other half are like, this is the worst book I've ever read. Sarah J. Maas should be killed for her crimes.
Oh, like, God. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
People hate these books. Yeah. But I like it. They're still my fave. I am working my way through the entire Sarah J. Maas universe, because some people believe they're all connected. So I'm like, I don't know how many books, maybe like 12 books in. I think there's 18. So that's my goal for the year, is to finish all of them, but we shall see.
Nice. Yeah. Yay. And then similar story is on Bridgerton. I watched the first season of Bridgerton, literally being like, I don't get it. I do not understand the hype. Like, there was so much hype around it. I do think it was because did it come out in 2020? Like, it was a pandemic series where everyone was just so tied to content, and I don't know. Yeah. I feel like the timing of it was impeccable and that's why it received such hype. But I didn't love it. And even the sex scenes, it's like the spicy books. Just because there's a sex scene, 5 stars on Goodread. And I'm like, okay, guys, no. It's gotta be still be a good book and like good story. That's how I felt with Bridgerton. I was like, are people just freaking out because there's sex scenes in this? I don't get it. But anyways, so then Teagan was like, maybe you should read the books, because you had you read all the books at that point? Or
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So I read the first book and I was like, okay, it was quick, easy read despite being like a pretty thick book. And then I read the second book before I watched the second series, and I liked the second book a lot more. So I watched, the second season. So then I watched second season, and they changed little things in the plot where I was just like, this is stupid. Now I'm mad I read the book first. Like, I did not like it. So why I even bothered to watch season 3 is beyond me. However, I've really, really been liking it. And when we're recording this, the part 2 hasn't dropped yet, but I will be locked in watching part 2 when it releases, I guess, just later this week. So yeah, that's my other hater to believer plot line over here.
That's funny. Yeah, I similarly hated season 2 of Bridgerton because that was my favorite book. And they changed a lot of the stuff, like even just the pacing of it, where I felt like Anthony being my favorite couple, we didn't really get to see them. And so then I was just like pissed. I was like, I'm not going to watch any more of this. And then a teaser came out for season 3. And I was like, nope, I'm back. They hooked me with this 10-second teaser. I do know that like the story that they're showing in season 3 is one of the favorites. I think it might be the like fan favorite. It wasn't my favorite. It is my mom's though. So I was like, I could see them being very loyal to the book because it's so beloved. Like, you don't want to mess that up. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just very excited for the point where we're at, because at this point in the books, all the stories start happening at the same time, which like you can kind of see happening in this season. So like my favorites were Canthony and then Benedict's story, which I'm really hoping kind of gets kicked off with this season. And even Francesca's story like getting kicked off, and Eloise's will probably be this season as well. So I'm just like, it's going to be coming fast and furious, and I'm very excited. So I also really, really liked the first half of season 3. I was like, I'll watch one episode tonight and then relax, finish the first episode. And I was like, nope, we're watching it all right now. I was laughing. I was crying. If I remember, I'll post the video of me like literally sobbing because of the ending. Like, I was just loving it. So
that's hilarious. I also was like, okay, I'm just going to binge this. I think I had like a rot day weekend after getting back to my apartment, and I was like, I'm just going to watch this whole season. I didn't realize it was in 2 parts. So then when I finished the 4 episodes, I was like, oh, well, I want to keep watching. So I actually went back to Queen Charlotte, which I had skipped last year when it dropped. So I was like, okay, we're like now in this Bridgerton universe over here, which I did not see coming. So yeah, wanted to share that with you guys.
I love that. Great.
Big life updates. I'm basic. Who would have thought?
Yeah. You like the things that are beloved by everyone.
And I'm calling it a big life update. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
So funny. All right, guys. Well, that's where we're going to wrap it up, because that clearly wasn't a big life update. So now we're just reaching for stuff. No, I'm kidding. But thank you so much for listening. We drop a new episode every Tuesday. So make sure you you subscribe on whatever app you are listening to this. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Our Golden 20s. And we, are posting content in between episodes. That's on Instagram, TikTok. Did I already go through this? Oh my God, I am brain dead. Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. We have Spotify playlists. We have a Facebook page. You name it, we're there. And I know I already mentioned our Patreon, but that is the best way to show your support for the podcast for as little as $2 a month. Like I mentioned earlier, you get access to bonus episodes or just chatty, like our kind of like pre-ramble before we actually start recording the episodes. We post all of that over on Patreon, as well as some bonus content every now and again. So go check us out over there. And I think that's everything, but thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.